Good morning, everybody. This is Monday Morning Show. It's James Morris. I got Frank Sundrum calling all the way from who knows where he's calling from. Good morning, Frank. How are we doing today, sir?
Good morning from Lancaster, Kentucky.
Now, what is Lancaster, Kentucky known for? There's got to be something famous up there.
Lancaster, Kentucky is mostly a Civil War town. It's a farming town, and it is about 35 miles south of Lexington, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the Kentucky River. A beautiful, beautiful little town. I recommend everybody come and visit.
Come and visit, spend money, and go back home. That's how that works.
A perfect place to get out of the way of a hurricane if one has to.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing. We got all these hurricanes in the Atlantic Ocean, and they're all heading. Everybody's wringing their hands. And I'm going, if you live in Florida, you kind of get used to it every year. We got this one coming, that one coming. And normally around September, that's when we have all of our major storms. And even into October and November, where I've seen them that late. But living in Florida is just a normal occurrence on here. But one of the things, speaking of hurricanes, one of the things I find out, a lot of people are not prepared if they do have to leave their home and evacuate. I remember, was it Opal back in whenever it was?
Yes.
I can't, 95, 97, something like that. People left, and when they got in traffic, their cars overheated. And a lot of people ended up ruining their cars because they tried to drive them overheated. And of course, that won't happen. That won't work very long. And a lot of people ended up doing damage to their cars that could have been prevented, because if your car can't sit idled for a long period of time without overheating, it's not ready to go on evacuation. I see this all the time. People's cars don't get rid of heat, and they need to be getting rid of 30 degrees of heat, the radiator does, sitting still with the air conditioning on, fully loaded, at idle. And that's how much heat they should be getting rid of. But anyway, I wanted to throw that out there. So what's on your mind this morning?
Well, you bring up the hurricane and stuff, but the idea of how many people are out there that get on a car that really is not even safe in a junkyard and try to go 500 miles out of their way and are really not prepared. Either the tires are no good, or the engine's not running right, or something, and then they wind up broken down on the road and making things so much worse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When hurricane evacuation came about, when I was living down there in the 2000s, I would take off and I would fly the airplane out of danger, and I would fly over traffic that was stopped, and there was always a car or two out there with the hood up, either on the side of the road or on the road itself. And the only good news is nobody would plow into it at 60 miles an hour.
That's
that would be the only good news. But the traffic really wasn't moving.
That's true.
And so the two options are to get out of town early, like 3, 4, 5 days ahead of time, and hope that if the hurricane came, you were okay, and if it didn't, you were okay. But that's the part that really, really scares me. Just the fact that people take their cars, put their families in it, and go out. And I know sometimes financial circumstances are such that you have to do what you have to do. But it's really not a smart thing, because you could be wherever you are in the path of the hurricane, even worse there.
Well, and we've seen that bunches of times. I've had people that headed north, try to get away from the hurricane, and where they went, the hurricane, they had more tornado spin-offs, and had problems where they were at if they just stayed where they're at. But it's a gamble. You don't know where you go. Right, north, east, west, can't go south. Which direction do you go? Because you just never know. Hurricanes are fickle creatures out there. They just never know where they're going. But the thing that I find is amazing, people don't do preventive maintenance on the cooling system. They'll have a car that's 10, 15 years old, and everything looks wonderful. I mean, the gauges are looking normal. They don't see any problems with the gauges. The temperature gauge is right in the middle. But when I go out there and I look at the car, I say, okay, here's what I know. When this car is sitting still at operating temperature, air conditioning on, windows rolled down where I get a full heat load on it, where everything's working like it's supposed to, I know that radiator should be getting rid of a minimum with the humidity we have down here of 30 degrees. If it's not getting rid of that, that normally means I have a problem internally or externally with the radiator, or sometimes both. And mostly it's due to bugs in the radiator on the outside and slime buildup, or old antifreeze that's not been changed regularly, that builds up inside the radiator, and scale, not so much rust, but slime and scale. And a 16th inch of this slime and scale is equivalent to 6 inches of cast iron steel, that's what they tell me, of getting rid of heat. It won't get rid of it. So the car ends up overheating, sitting in traffic. Your transmission is supposed to be at 170 degrees. Now it gets up to 200 degrees, just as hot as the engine. And the engine's getting hotter and hotter. Now it's at 210, 215. So now you end up cooking your transmission. You end up destroying your air conditioning and maybe your engine. Engine's about the last thing to go, but boy, that transmission air conditioning won't take very long before it craps out on you and dies due to overheating. But you see this like I've seen it over the years. And you can't, in my opinion, you can't force people to do stuff like this. All you can do is bring it to their awareness. But a lot of people just, well, they think about it a little too late before they get out of town on their vehicles. Now, you've got a 92 model Lexus, and that thing's almost an antique now. But what did you ever find out was causing that problem on the misfire? Did you ever figure it out?
I have not had time yet to really chase it down. Things are heading towards the fuel computer. Everything is run by something else here. There's no just simple power to a fuel pump. It goes to the fuel computer, which gets a trigger from the ECU. So I have a feeling that I'll be changing an ECU or getting it rebuilt and a fuel computer fairly soon.
Well, be careful. Yeah, be careful, because sometimes they can drive you crazy. I have seen Toyotas, things as simple as a coolant temp sensor cause one not to start, and I have seen things as complicated as or like you're talking about, a fuel pump or a computer that's not sending the signal. But yeah, if you can, Frank, have someone, if you can't look at it with a scanner, have someone look at it with a scanner at least, see what's going on, because the scanner is really what you're going to have on this thing to see what's going on.
Well, you know, your scanner is so vastly more sophisticated than mine. Mine, you plug it in, it says, oh, it's broke.
Yeah.
Yours, on the other hand, goes into so many different realms. Actually, just points you to the general area.
Well, yeah,
yours has the ability to really delve into all kinds of layers of operation. I was really impressed.
Well, yeah,
yours.
Well, that's on your brother's car. Now, your brother's car was an OBD2 car, so there's so much more information I can get on it, whereas your 92 model car is OBD1, and it's kind of limited on what kind of information I can get. I can get, you know, is it in closed loop, is it an open loop, what the fuel trims are, how hot it is, how cold it is, what the load is on it. I can see a lot of things, but I can't see as much as I could with a 96 or newer model car. That's a really big difference. And when 2008 came around, it even got more and more sophisticated. And your brother's is a 2008 or 9. So there's a lot of information on your brother's car. Lots of information that's readily available. Bidirectional controls. You can make things, you can command things on or off with my scanner. Where on your 92 model, you can't really do much of anything other than just kind of look, see what it's reading. But things have really gotten a lot more sophisticated on cars in the last 10, 15 years. Like since 2008 came around, here it is 2018. In 2008, it was a computerized access network on all the computers, came standard equipment just about on every car out there. Every computer is interconnected to each other, and they can kind of tell on each other. You know, the ECU can say, hey, that transmission is not working like it's supposed to. You know, it's gone to sleep on us. Something's wrong with the transmission, and there'll be a code for the transmission in the engine computer. Or you might find a code for the transmission in the body control module. So all these computers talk to each other, and there's no secrets. They all will tell on each other. If one's not working right, they will say, hey, there's a problem here with this guy. He's not pulling his weight. You need to check him out and see what the problem is. So that's what's happened since 2008. We've got a lot more information that we can work with. But yeah, that's come a long way.
I expect to be in town this weekend, and I'm going to start chasing it down. Or my fallback position is always get the car to you, which might arrive on a truck. But I do have to address that car. I just hate that it just sits there and it's not driven.
I know the feeling. I do know the feeling.
It's not helping things.
Yeah, I had a truck sitting in my stall here, and I call it my hangar queen area. I had a computer. It took 4 computers before we could get the right. It was a 2002 model, and somehow the computer's not supported by Ford anymore, and the computer aftermarket companies will rebuild computers. So they sent me a computer. Well, it had problems, and so the car wouldn't start unless we saw all the odometer readings. And I said, well, there's a problem. Checked it all out. Faulty computer. Sent that back in. Got another one. Put that one in. Car fired right up, but I had a check engine light on after the second crank. And I said, what's wrong with that? Computer again had a bad circuit. I said, okay, I can't get a third one. Got a third one in. It wouldn't start the car. It wouldn't see the RPMs. I'm going, I cannot believe this. 4th computer. After the car has been here over a month, finally got the car to run correctly. So I know the frustration involved with a computer or not getting the right information or getting something you think is going to be rebuilt or new. And I'm starting to really believe that NEW, new, means never, ever worked. It gets frustrating, Frank, when you try to put something in.
Well, the Lexus is as good as a car as they are.
Oh, yeah.
The generation they were when they started using those capacitors. The capacitors on those cars are failing all over the place. Yeah. And when I bought my first Lexus with a sedan, LS400, still one of the best cars I've ever owned, probably only second to my Porsche 944 Turbo. The capacitors in the ECU failed.
They leak. They sure do.
Yes,
they sure do.
And then it leaked one day where it would start up and it would idle, but you tried to put any kind of load on it and it would start to misfire tremendously.
Yeah.
And replacing the capacitors, which turned out to be not too bad a job. You can buy them from an electronics house and replace them, and they were fine. But at the same time, the dash lights had not worked for a while either. And the fuel gauge didn't work, and I replaced all the capacitors in the back of the display, the dash display.
Right.
And lo and behold, all lights came on. Indicator lights came on. Those funny little lights that you have on the switches and Lexus, you can find them in the dark.
Yeah.
They came on.
Good for you.
And everything worked, and the lights came on the illuminated needle. On the speedometer and all that, so all of a sudden had a functioning car for less than $20 in capacitors and an afternoon with a soldering iron.
That's true. Now the hard part now is, where do you find an electronics store anymore? They're all gone. All the ones we used to go to here in town, I can't find. What were we saying, Anna Marie? There's no Radio Shack, and she's all that's gone away. We don't have that anymore. I don't. You have to order them from out of town. Even back then, you could not get. And Radio Shack really, probably outlasted its own lifespan by 10 years. At least it did. Frank, we got about 25 seconds left on here, and I got to get. We're going to get Scott Hobbs from Mr. Rooter Plumbing on here. What would you like to tell people to get ready for this hurricane season? We have about 15 seconds.
Folks, check your belts, check your antifreeze, check your radiators, and of course, make provisions for your puppies.
Oh, that's a fact. Make sure your pets are safe. Keep them safe. All right, Frank, we got to go. I got Scott Hobbs calling, and we'll be right back with Scott Hobbs from Mr. Rooter Plumbing. Bye-bye, everybody.
If you want the best deal in town for tires, you need to call Baytown Tires at 873-8900.
Hanson and the guys at Baytown Tires take pride in serving Panama City for over 20 years. Baytown Tires on Highway 98 in St. Andrews. All service work backed by a nationwide warranty.
Water is too powerful to fight alone. Mr. Rooter Plumbing. Sink, shower, and toilet emergency drain services.
Fall is here. Kids are in school. Holidays are around the corner. Time to visit friends and family. Give us a call, 850-763-0555 for your free AAA safety inspection.
We fix it right, guaranteed. Beep, 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 yeah!
Part of what I'd like to let you know is what we do and how we work our system. Basically, we've got about 700 stocking dealers scattered around the 15 counties here in the Big Bend area of the state. I run a fleet of trucks, vans, and what we call hotshot vehicles to deliver to our dealers quickly so they can help service you as fast and efficiently as they can. Provide timely, and efficient service, and we're there to take care of our dealers, who in turn can take care of their customers.
All right, welcome back to our show. This is our second part of Monday Morning Show. I have Scott Hobbs calling all the way. Scott, where are you calling from? You on your way to work this morning?
I am. I'm heading south on Highway 77.
All right, you're heading into Panama City, Florida, from probably up north there. But how? Now I know it's probably been the rainiest, I guess, summer we've had in a long time. Has that affected people's septic tanks up where you live up there in the woods up there? Are they calling every day saying, "Hey, I got a problem," or how did that affect the septic tank situation?
Oh wow, James, we're getting calls all over Bay County. We'll get calls out and, kind of feel sorry for some folks. We'll go out and their whole backyard will be underwater.
Oh, no.
And obviously there's nothing we can do for them. We can't, pump the neighborhood down. We just have to wait for the water to subside. But it is a common issue. We need some dry, sunny days to dry the earth out a little bit.
Yeah, I was up there at my pond yesterday. My place, and working on my well, and my guy looked down, who's helped me, looked down. And he says, "Your water table's real high, isn't it?" And I said, "Yeah, about 13 feet from the surface." And they went, "Woo! I had no idea." I'm on a hill. Where my well is on a hill. He said, "I had no idea." I said, "Well, that's just how it is up here in the sand hills. You don't have to dig very far before you hit water." But now, years ago, some people were upset. I've heard some people say, that people were upset that they got rid of the bill to make septic tanks mandatory inspection. Now, in my opinion, smaller government is better government. But they got rid of it where they didn't force people to get, it was every 4 to 5 years, a state mandatory inspection. They got rid of that law, did they not, or it didn't go through?
That's right. It never made it through.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting close,
Mm-hmm.
and I understand some of the concerns, where they're close to some of our one of the best resources we have here in Florida is our waters and our springs, and when you have a lot of nitrogen, which septic systems put off
Mm-hmm.
nitrogen, the nitrogen's going to cause the algae in those springs and really kind of do damage to them. So I do understand their thought process, but I'm with you. Less government's better.
Right.
So, I really don't know what the solution is other than, installing the system correctly, the first time, and there's really good oversight for that these days.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the older ones that were put in years and years ago had no oversight. People just put them in the best they knew how.
Mm-hmm.
But now you can't put in a system without the inspector coming at every stage to make sure it was done, according to the permit requirement.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think these days a system installed correctly is going to perform correctly and, not cause those problems that the homeowner has a responsibility to do maintenance, on every 3 to 5 years, have that tank pumped so there's not excessive issues, or premature failure.
Now, septic tanks are not exactly they're not inexpensive to put in. I bet you they range anywhere. I'm just throwing numbers up here. From a small single-family residential unit, probably from $3,000 to $5,000 up to $30,000 to $40,000, depending on how big a unit you've got to do. But every septic tank is different. Every installation is different. Some have sandy soil, some don't have sandy soil. I bet you some of the soil you have to replace it. We've talked about on the beach. The soil is so heavily laden with trash and stuff that you have to remove all the soil and put in fresh soil. That's another item you have to deal with.
That's right. You could see your neighbor do a system and you go ask him how much he paid, and then you decide to do your system, and it'd be completely different just 100 feet away. You can't go by what your neighbor did. When we replace a system or do maintenance on a system, we actually go out and have a soil sample performed and figure out where the seasonal high water table is at. Of course, right now it's high. It could be very high.
It really is. But now you're talking about the neighbors. You can't pump out the whole neighborhood if one is submerged. So what would be the long-term solution to something like that? If you got one when it rains heavy, your backyard's underwater and your septic tank's underwater, the long-term solution is going to be replacing that septic tank, raising it. Is that what's going to be required? More than likely.
Well, you may not be able to raise the septic tank. but you may have to raise the drain field to where it's above the the flood line, to where it's always up in the. So then you have the issue of the tank that could be below the flood line. So that's always a concern.
All right. Now,
and if the house was built, lower than where the water is going to flood in the backyard, you're going to have a challenge with that. Even if you raise the tank up, you still have to have a basin of some sort to pump it to it, and that basin could be below the water line. So it is a challenge for folks.
Now, do y'all have now I'm sure this is something y'all run across all the time, and every home is different, but y'all have solutions for these problems. Not one size fits all. It's kind of like working on a car. Sometimes you have to go about it differently. You have to kind of go through another way to get to it, but there is a solution to every problem, especially when it comes to septic tanks. It may not be a happy solution.
Yes.
Yeah, but
there's always a solution, and we have to visit that specific site to develop a solution. Because, like I said, your neighbor 100 feet away may be a completely different solution for him.
Now, now I do not know about the North Bay treatment plant that's in Northern Bay County up towards the Southport area. Are they actually hooking up more of the houses on septic tank, off septic tank, and putting those on there? Are you hearing anything more about that? As if the septic tanks fail and they have the line, are they hooking back up? I don't know. I know that's something y'all do. Y'all can hook back up to city sewer. Y'all did it on my property here years ago. And I was just wondering if that's something that's happening in North Bay County.
Yeah, I think the biggest improvement is there's more construction, more houses being built. That they're mandating to be on a city sewer system, and so they get the influx of that. I don't really see a whole lot of activity where they're running new sewer lines through existing neighborhoods. For folks to tile into. The beach went through that a few years back, and it was just mass exodus from septic systems because people had been having so many issues for so long that they were really willing and able to connect, and the city was encouraging them with discounted impact fees and discounted permit fees, and really making it attractive for folks to tile into.
Now I don't know if they're making it attractive to hook up to the system right now of North Bay County, but I think that's going to be something in the next few years more people are going to be doing, is hooking, because I guess out of sight, out of mind. They'd rather pay that monthly sewer fee instead of putting that money back for their septic tank. But if people would put back $20 a month, just for septic tank maintenance and service, at the end of 3 to 5 years, they would have enough money to do whatever they need to do to their septic tank every 3 to 5 years. And they're paying a lot more than $20 a month, for sewer bill.
Sure, and if they would do some maintenance and care and be cautious about what they put in their system, we go to folks' homes and they've just loaded it up with those wipes that say they're flushable, but they're not. That just means they'll go through the toilet. It doesn't mean that they're good for the system.
You're absolutely right. So, you're right about that. I didn't think about it. You were telling me, showed me pictures of where an entire septic tank system had those wipes put in there, and it was probably maybe 3,000 of them. Anyway, the system was completely clogged up because these things do not biodegrade. They don't come apart. I don't know if that's the right word or not. They just stay solid for a very long time. They don't come apart.
They don't. I know I sent you the picture that you couldn't show on the air, but the front of that tractor was full, and that was from one septic tank. The bucket on the front of that tractor, we completely filled up with those sanitary, wipes.
Now, I can't. Now, one of the things you told me about, if people have septic tanks and they have a garbage disposal, get rid of the garbage disposal. Don't use it. That's something, because my mother has a septic tank, and when I went to visit her, I said, "Mommy, do you use that garbage disposal?" She said, "Not very often." I said, "You really shouldn't use it at all if you have a septic tank, because if you don't eat it first and get it ready to be pre-digested, it'll just sit there in the septic tank and rot and cause problems. It's not pre-digested, so to speak, and it'll sit there and will not break down like it's supposed to in the septic tank and can cause problems." And that's what I told her. So she quit using her septic tank. She just disconnected the power, her garbage disposal and just disconnected the power to it where she won't use it anymore. And I hope that'll make her septic tank last a lot longer without having to have it pumped out. I'm hoping it will. But that's the other thing.
Right, that undigested food particles will, make their way through the system and into the drain field, or if it has a filter on before it goes to the drain field and prematurely clog that up. So it does wreak havoc on a septic system. But my feelings about our garbage disposal anyway. I'm a plumber, and my feelings are, if it's something that you're supposed to be, or think you need to put down a garbage disposal, just put it out, make a compost pile, or throw it in the trash, or feed it to the dog, or something.
Oh, absolutely.
Feed it to the chickens.
Yeah, that's what my wife does. Now, what's the worst thing that people put down garbage disposals? I know there's got to be one thing that causes the most problem. What's the worst thing?
I would say I'd say the two worst things. I'll give you two. Is pasta and rice.
Pasta and rice.
They'll
all right.
Pasta and rice. They'll dump a whole thing of pasta or rice down the drain, and it gets a little ways down the system and just stops and just becomes a thick clog.
Oh, I never thought of that. But pasta, but yeah, I guess so. If you got pasta and rice, don't dump it down the garbage disposal. Throw it in the garbage can. If not, you're going to be calling Mr. Reuter at, what is it? What is your phone number again? 2001? It's 873-2001?
763-2001.
Yeah, that's what you're going to have to call Mr. Reuter if you do that, because, like you said, it'll go down past the garbage disposal, around the gooseneck, and then make that one final turn and stop. And right there, it'll probably clog up on you, and then you end up having to call Mr. Reuter at 763-2001. And then their guys come out there and run a camera down it and go, "You must have had pasta last night," because it's all down there. That's interesting to know, Scott. So rice and pasta are two no-nos to go down the drain, especially whether you have a septic tank or city sewer. Don't put those down the drain. They cause a lot of problems.
That's right.
All right, so that's something. Now, what's the best thing they could put down their drain to keep it clean? I know you got that bio choice. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, sure. So we recommend a natural probiotic for your drains. And what we offer to our customers is called BioChoice, ES, and it's a friendly bacteria, just like a probiotic that you would take for your body orally. You're putting this into your drain, and it's going to consume. It literally turns the fats, oils, and grease back into water, and it cleans away that into your system. It helps with the smell. A lot of folks complain about the smell in their garbage disposal, just to take care of all of that.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So that's one of the things that helps take care of the smell in your garbage disposal if you have one too. So it actually breaks down that. Okay, that's a good thing to do. I know people put down bleach and things like that down their garbage disposal to make them smell better, but that's really not the best thing you should do, because that bleach destroys a lot of the good bacteria that's in the system. So keep bleach out of your drains. And what were you saying, Anna Marie?
Bleach also destroys rubber seals.
Oh, okay. See,
it sure does.
Oh, yeah.
The black rubber seals, it just wreaks havoc on those. And, those chlorine tablets that folks will put in the back of their toilet, it destroys all of the flappers and the seals that seal the toilet to the tank to the toilet bowl itself. Chlorine is not a good thing as it relates to plumbing.
So, I guess a plumber's best friend is those chlorine tablets, because they keep steady employment for you.
It really does. That's right.
Hey, it's good to know that. Frank, guys. Scott, we got to go. We've been up against the clock. I'll be talking to you again next Monday, and you have a great week. And say hello to everybody over there at Mr. Reuter for me. We'll talk to you later, okay, now?